The F1 Championship was over, until Baku happened.
Oscar Piastri into the barriers, and his Grand Prix ends on the opening lap.
What went down wasn't just a race. It was the moment the 2025 F1 season imploded, and the championship battle officially exploded. Think about it. Oscar Piastri rolls into Azerbaijan with a massive 31-point lead, and his team McLaren literally had the champagne on ice, ready to clinch the Constructors' title. 36 hours later, it was a disaster. He ended up stuffing his car into the Baku barriers twice, his lead was slashed, and suddenly Max Verstappen, the guy everyone had written off, was right back in the fight. This is the insane story of how one brutal weekend didn't just flip a championship on its head, it shattered the illusion of invincibility. It's about a driver who'd been ice-cool all season, suddenly cracking under the sheer weight of expectation. And it's the ultimate reminder that in F1, your biggest enemy isn't the car behind you, it's the pressure inside your own helmet. Ready? Buckle up. This is Piastri's nightmare weekend. Let me paint you the picture of just how dominant Oscar Piastri had been heading into Azerbaijan. The Australian had been absolutely surgical all season. While his teammate Lando Norris was busy making headlines with inconsistent performances, Piastri was quietly building an almost unassailable championship lead. He had 324 points, 31 points clear of Norris. He was 94 points ahead of Max Verstappen in third. McLaren was sitting pretty with 617 points in the Constructors' Championship, a massive 357-point gap over Mercedes. They could have wrapped up the title in Baku with the right result. The Constructors' title felt like a formality. But here's what makes this story so brutal. Piastri hadn't retired from a race since the 2023 United States Grand Prix. The guy was Mr. Reliable. While other drivers were throwing away points with costly mistakes, Piastri was banking them like a championship veteran. The narrative had completely taken hold in the paddock. The conversation wasn't about if Piastri would win the title, but when. The consensus was building. This was becoming the most dominant season since the early days of the hybrid era, and many were already writing off his competitors. They were about to be proven spectacularly wrong. Saturday in Baku started like any other qualifying session. But by the time the checkered flag waved, we'd witnessed something unprecedented. 6 red flags. At that point, you couldn't even call it qualifying anymore. It was pure F1 anarchy. The track was already on edge. It was a mix of rookie and veteran errors. Franco Colapinto and Oliver Behrman found the wall, but so did seasoned drivers like Alex Albon and Nico Hülkenberg. The session was constantly stop-start, with no one able to find a rhythm. It was so treacherous that even the top drivers struggled. Lando Norris glanced the wall and ruined his final lap, while the highly rated rookie Kimi Antonelli was having times deleted left and right. Then, Charles Leclerc brought out the 5th red flag by finding the barriers at turn 15, setting the stage for the finish. Light rain was beginning to fall, making the already treacherous Baku street circuit even more dangerous. Then came the moment that changed everything. Q3, just under 4 minutes remaining. Piastri was running well. He'd been comfortable in Q1 and Q2, showing the kind of pace that had made him championship leader. But as he approached turn 3, he pushed the limit just too far. He braked a fraction too late. The front tyres immediately locked solid, killing the steering. 1 second he was attacking the corner, the next he was sliding helplessly toward the barriers at high speed. The impact was brutal. Carbon fiber exploded across the track. The session was red flagged immediately, the 6th and final stoppage of the day. And Oscar Piastri, the man who'd been so composed all season, was climbing out of his destroyed McLaren with his head in his hands. Dropping him all the way down to 9th place, he'd gone from a potential pole sitter to being completely buried in the midfield. It was a massive drop, and starting from that far back, away from the front row, meant he was right in the danger zone for the race start. Believe it or not, it actually gets worse. Sunday morning in Baku. The sun was shining, the track was dry, and Oscar Piastri had a chance to salvage something from his qualifying disaster. Starting 9th isn't ideal, but champions find ways to fight back, right? Not today. The lights went out, and immediately something was off. Piastri twitched. He moved a fraction of a second before the start signal, earning himself a 5-second penalty.
And they were being given a 5-second time penalty for jumping the start.
Yeah, copy. They react to Piastri, sorry.
But the real problem happened a moment later. The anti-stall system kicked in. The system is designed to save a stalled car, but for Piastri, it became his executioner. The system engaged, the McLaren bogged down hard, and suddenly the championship leader was P20, dead last. Oscar Piastri, who has dominated the season, watched 19 cars disappear ahead of him as he crawled away from the start line like a wounded animal. But the nightmare wasn't over yet. Lap 1, turn 5. Piastri was trying to make up ground, pushing hard to recover from his disastrous start. The pressure was immense. Every second he spent at the back was a second his championship rivals could capitalize. And then it happened again. Another crash, another barrier, another destroyed McLaren. This time, there was no getting back up. Oscar Piastri's race was over before it had really begun. His first retirement of the season, his championship lead cut from 31 points to just 25 over Norris. In the space of 36 hours, the man who looked untouchable had crashed twice and handed his rivals a lifeline they desperately needed. And the real kick in the teeth? It opened the door wide open for their rivals. With Piastri out of the race, all eyes turned to Lando Norris. This was his moment. His teammate had gifted him the perfect opportunity to close the championship gap and potentially take the lead. All he had to do was capitalize. And he didn't. Norris could only manage 7th place in a McLaren that should have been fighting for the podium. A slow 4.1 second pit stop cost him crucial track position. And suddenly what should have been McLaren's damage limitation exercise became a complete disaster. The numbers tell the brutal story. Norris gained just 6 points on his stricken teammate when he could have taken the championship lead. The 6 points Lando Norris salvaged were nowhere near enough. McLaren's disaster meant the party was over. They would have to wait until at least Singapore to clinch the Constructors' title. Instead, McLaren's worst performance of the season came at the exact moment they needed their best. The champagne stayed on ice. The celebrations were postponed. And suddenly, a championship that looked decided was wide open again. Team principal Andrea Stella's post-race comments said it all. We won't see this anymore. It was uncharacteristic of Oscar. But the damage was done, and someone else was ready to capitalize. While McLaren was busy imploding, Max Verstappen was doing what Max Verstappen does best, winning when it matters most. The Dutchman converted pole position into a dominant victory, leading all 51 laps for his 6th career Grand Chelem. This was a reminder that reports of Red Bull's death had been greatly exaggerated. The championship math suddenly looked very different. Verstappen's gap to Piastri shrunk from 94 points to just 69. Still a mountain to climb, but with 7 races remaining and 175 points still available, suddenly it didn't look impossible. This was Verstappen's 2nd consecutive victory, showing that Red Bull had found their form at exactly the right moment. While McLaren was cracking under pressure, Red Bull was getting stronger. The psychological impact was enormous. Piastri had gone from looking untouchable to vulnerable in just one weekend. Verstappen had gone from championship outsider to genuine contender. And the best part, Verstappen didn't even need to do anything special. He just had to be there when his rival self-destructed. So what went wrong for Oscar Piastri? How does a driver who'd been so composed all season suddenly make 2 critical errors in one weekend? The answer is as old as motorsport itself: pressure. Think about it. Piastri came into Baku knowing that a good weekend could effectively seal the championship. McLaren could wrap up the Constructors' title. The pressure was immense, even for someone who'd handled it so well all season. In qualifying, that pressure manifested as overdriving, pushing just a little too hard at turn 3, trying to extract that extra 10th that would put him on pole. Instead, he found the barriers. On race day, it was desperation. Starting 9th with a penalty, knowing his championship rivals were ahead, Piastri was trying to make up ground too quickly. The false start, the anti-stall, the crash, it was a cascade of errors from a driver trying to do too much. This is what separates the good drivers from the great ones. The great ones thrive under pressure. They get better when the stakes are highest. Piastri, for all his talent, showed he's still learning how to handle championship pressure. But here's the thing about Formula One. It's not just about who's fastest. It's about who makes the fewest mistakes when it matters most. And in Baku, Oscar Piastri learned that lesson the hard way. The current championship standings tell the entire story. Oscar Piastri still leads with 324 points. But right behind him is his teammate, Lando Norris, with 299. 25 points is all that separates first from second now. But with just 7 races remaining and the momentum having completely stalled for the championship leader, this fight just got a whole lot more interesting. This weekend perfectly illustrated Formula One's brutal nature. One moment you're cruising toward a championship, the next you're picking carbon fiber out of your teeth. It's a reminder that in F1, momentum is everything. Piastri had it all season, until he didn't. Now Verstappen has it, and that's a dangerous thing for his rivals. But, perhaps most importantly, this weekend showed us that the 2025 championship isn't over. Not by a long shot. Piastri still leads, but his aura of invincibility is gone. Norris is close enough to strike, and Verstappen is back in the hunt. The pressure that broke Piastri in Baku will only intensify as we head toward the season finale. Can he recover his composure? Can McLaren regroup? Can Verstappen complete one of the greatest championship comebacks in F1 history? 7 races, 175 points. Anything is possible. Sometimes in Formula One, it's not about who drives the best over a season, but who handles the pressure when the championship is on the line. If this weekend taught you anything about how quickly fortunes can change in F1, smash that like button, drop your championship predictions in the comments, and subscribe because this title fight is just getting started.